All right, Mr. Wayne here with New Thought Society. Guess what day it is? It is Wednesday, and we are starting part 11 tonight. It is Wednesday, the 9th of April. Right now it is 8:37 p.m. We just got home probably about 15 minutes ago, and we've been thinking about this all day. Now, things with work are very different, very fantastic. Our coaches are working with us a lot more. We actually went for a walk with our coach and our store manager. Now, again, we have a big store. My manager has over 400 employees, and she made time to go for a walk with us. We walked around the store. I showed her how my day goes, how my day is, and she was coaching me along the way. And everything we do revolves around customer service. No matter what, customer service is the absolute most important thing. Customer experience. And we tweaked a few things around my priorities, right? What I need to prioritize over others. And which is good, which is very good. Because with these changes and implementing these changes, obviously that's what the coaches are looking at, what our manager is looking at. And if we're applying it and doing it, that's going to have a very positive effect on my positioning and me being a candidate for store lead. I'm already a lead. I already know it. It's just waiting to manifest. We're just manifesting it. We're moving into it. We're growing into it, especially now. Our store manager made time for us, right? That says a lot. That's a big thing, right? Because she is very busy. She has a lot of things that she's doing. And she also has other people that she's training, people that are already in higher positions that need her time and attention. And she gave us her time and attention, and it is a very positive thing. And with these tweaks, like I said, I know it's going to be a very positive thing for us in the long run. And things are it's happening, right? It's moving, and we've been applying what we're learning, the Master Key System, towards our positioning to move to a higher level, and it's working. And then even with building this channel, building this society, the other day we got a comment on Master Key System. Now, this was on my old channel. It wasn't on this channel, and I did direct him that we're building this channel. That I don't really use my old channel much. He said he was watching the Master Key videos that I did 8+ years ago. Because the first time I went through this was a very long time ago. It was almost a decade ago, and I was very young. And I understand a lot more now. And we're a lot more mature now and a lot more experienced. But we gave him, because he asked me how it's affected my life. And I told him the biggest effect it's done for me is beyond material means. For granted, yeah, we live in a capitalistic society. We need to have money. We need to have financial income and a great place to be financially. And it's a blessing to have things, right? It's a blessing to have a nice car. It's a blessing to have nice clothes. It's a blessing to be able to go out and eat whenever you want to go out and eat. Right? These things are blessings. But the biggest blessing with this, it's the value of it is beyond material means, right? Because this is a spiritual program. It's a spiritual means, right? It's insight. It just changes how you see life. And the only way to really explain it is through an experience, right? You have to experience it yourself to really see the changes that it'll do for you. Because the change happens within. It happens within the mind. And understanding, since we're on this topic, I do have an illustration that I want to give you. But through the understanding of what thought actually is and what it does, and this infinite mind we actually live in, right? This spiritual, conscious essence that pervades everything, that is the backbone and foundation of all matter. Right? You're walking around and living in connection with this source because you understand it, you're walking with it, you're applying it day in and day out. And that knowledge and understanding is invaluable, right? Material means you could use this information to create material, your financial life, the financial life you want. You can use this information to create the health that you want. Because remember, it's all in consciousness. We open this entire system with whatever you want to obtain, you have to first ascertain it in consciousness, mentally. And through taking possession of it mentally, we will then manifest it in our lives in the physical plane. Because our mind is what takes us there. In this illustration that I have for you, okay, I drew it out for my brother too, because my brother is into all of this. He's very spiritual. He understands the law of attraction. He understands the power of thought, and he's using it to move forward in his acting career. And lately, he's been getting tons and tons of opportunity for acting, and he's got 2 mentors for himself too. Very happy for him, very proud of him. And you know, he lives on the other side of the states now. We both met in California, but now we're in opposite, right, 2 different sides of the USA, and we're still in contact today like we never left, and it is truly a blessing. With this illustration I have for you, okay, we know we live and move and have our being in this infinite intelligence. So I have my blank sheet of paper. These lines right here are just going to be a representation of the substance that we live in, right? It's infinite consciousness. And we know it today with quantum physics as a quantum field. So we live in this field of conscious energy. So all this is this field of conscious energy. Then we have you, viewer, the person. You are right here. You got the... All right, throw on some ears, and there's the hair. Great, whatever. So there's you, right? Not much of an artist, but you get the point. This is you, and surrounding you is this infinite field of energy. Now, as we just went over in the last part, Mr. Hanel explained how this energy is flowing into you, into your being, into your consciousness. Now we know about the pineal gland. Okay, the pineal gland, it's going to be right here in the middle. It's called the third eye. And this pineal gland is the main center of where consciousness flows in, which gives you your independent I am, right? Your own individual awareness, your own being. It's what makes you your own individual. Now, Dr. Wilcox, I know I mentioned this in a prior part. Dr. Wilcox talks about the pineal gland has within the gland rods and cones. The only other gland in the body that has rods and cones, or structure of the body that does, is our eyes, right? Our eyes have rods and cones, and these rods and cones are on the outside of our eyes, which allows us to see the external world, to receive vibrational energy of matter, which, you know, gives the impression of what something is, right? Say, for example, we have our beautiful peace lily plant, which she's grown very big, by the way. Look at, she's even blooming again right here. She's starting to bloom again right there. But the impression of peace lily, her being here in front of me, right, my eyes are picking up on energy. Because remember, peace lily isn't nothing but vibration. It's energy. And it's vibrating, that energy is vibrating through this infinite plane, right, the quantum field, this substance from which all things exist in. and it's traveling through this infinite mind, and I am picking up on it, on that energy with my eyes, my rods and cones, and the rods and cones and the eyes transfer that electrical signal all the way up to the brain, and the brain in turn transmutes it as a picture, an image of something that is seemingly solid, but we know it's not truly solid, but it takes on the appearance of being solid. That's what our eyes do. Now the pineal gland has rods and cones on the inside of the gland, right? It is known, it has been said, it's the seat of the soul. It's the very portion of where consciousness rests, the gland in which consciousness rests, again, which is where we rest, our I amness, our personal state of awareness. And this gland is receiving and pulling from the infinite source consciousness and expressing consciousness itself, right? You are the infinite consciousness embodied and expressing itself through the man, through this portion of man. Now, in my meditations, me and my buddy were talking about this too in my meditations, because I was telling him, I've just had this image of my own personal vibratory, just my own personal vibratory wand, we can call it. Like, we know thought is a vibration. We've been learning in the Master Key. We know when we manifest something, the thought of it happens first, right? And then its manifestation follows. I know you've thought of something and it ended up happening to you. You ended up experiencing it. You ended up coming across it at some point in your life. You're thinking about a car. Suddenly you see that car. You think about somebody and then they end up calling you, or you end up running into them, right? Your vibration, your thought vibration traveled this infinite mind, the infinite field, and it reached out and connected with that person. This is how the law of attraction works on a spiritual plane. So for example, the thought is our vibratory wand, right? It is our main tool. And we know when it comes with quantum physics, and we'll give an analogy too of how the law works. Because there's a, what will we call it? A tuning fork. They give an example of a tuning fork. So here, we'll go ahead and draw. You have here, let's say we're in a superdome. Okay, we'll use the example that was given to me. We have a superdome. So it's your superdome, the totality of it. And in the middle of that superdome is a tuning fork. So this is our tuning fork, okay, our lovely Y in the middle, okay? And around that superdome, you have hundreds of thousands of other tuning forks. So this is the main one in the middle. But you have hundreds of thousands. We're only going to draw a few. Okay, we're not going to draw a ton. So, hundreds of thousands of tuning forks, okay, all around the superdome. Now, these tuning forks are all vibrating at their own frequency. Now, this tuning fork, we'll say, has the ability to vibrate at any frequency. So you, an example of this, when it comes to you legitimately have the power to create your own vibrational frequency through your thoughts, your mental images, what you visualize, what you imagine, and through what you feel, right? Remember, you have to also have feeling behind the thought. So this tuning fork can tune at any frequency. These are at set frequencies. Now let's say this one is at 20 hertz frequency. We'll put 20. We're at 20 right here. And this one over here is going to be at 40. So we have 20 and we have 40. So this one, we're going to vibrate at 20 hertz. This, if we're vibrating this tuning fork at 20, it's only going to resonate with this 20. It's not going to resonate with this 40 at all. Now, if we vibrate this at 40 hertz, the vibration of it reaches out and vibrates with this 40, and it doesn't affect the 20 at all. Now, that's an example of the tuning fork, and it's also an example of attraction, right? The law of attraction, for you to manifest something. Remember how we're told we have to be it first. We have to manifest it internally first. We have to become it first, and then its manifestation will follow. We have to think about it first, because thought, you can say this is the power of your thought right here. And whatever you think, or whatever thoughts you're sending out, whether positive or negative, the positive thought, negative thought, whether you have a negative or positive emotion back behind it too, is going to determine what this one in the middle is going to vibrate. And whatever else is in the world, like let's say this is just the world, right? The world is vibrating, has all these different manifested things, different people, every person is vibrating at their own frequency, whatever. Whatever thought you begin to think, the I, remember how we are told it's our divine I am center of consciousness. So this is your I am, and whatever your I am is vibrating, it's going to manifest and vibrate in the exact same frequency as whatever other frequency is out there in the world. And the universal mind will do whatever it does to bring these two things together. Again, remember how I said if you're vibrating at 40 hertz, you are going to attach to other like tuning forks, so to speak, that are vibrating at that same frequency. So back to this other image, your consciousness, as we already said this, your center of awareness, your I amness. I'm running out of ink on this thing. Your individual center of awareness is just pure consciousness itself. And this awareness, your consciousness, its main ability, as we learned, is thought. And thought, as we've gone over, is mind in motion. It's consciousness is in motion. It is consciousness expressing itself in a specific form. There are many, many different ways of explaining it. But your I am, once it begins to think, it starts to vibrate your tuning fork. And then your vibration, your thought, goes back out into the infinite mind. And as we said, the universal mind in its infinite power, infinite wisdom, infinite presence. Remember, it is everywhere. It is everything and it is everywhere. Well, then your vibrations will just go out into the infinite and attach to other like vibrational things. By the law of attraction, law of electromagnetism, whatever you want to call it, it's the exact same thing. That's how you attract it to you. And that's just the spiritual portion. That's just the pure vibratory portion. Remember, there's two things that happen. There's this part that happens. You send out the vibration. Through vibration, you will attract other like vibrations to you. Now, the next thing that happens, remember your brain, as we've gone over, the most wonderful piece of mechanism of attachment, as we've said. How this power is expressed is determined by what it is attached to. Remember how we gave the example of, you have electricity. Electricity is just electricity. Once we understood electricity, we understood the law governing electricity, we then were able to use it for our benefit. Now electricity is what we use to pretty much power the entire world. And how that electricity is used is dependent upon the mechanism that you attach to an electrical current. For example, I've used this many times. You have your fan and your heater. Both are powered by the exact same power, but the difference is what that power is attached to. Likewise with you, right? We both came, me and you, viewer, we came from the exact same power. We're both the manifestation of the exact same power, which is the infinite itself, embodied in form. Remember, you're created in its image. You are the one. Christ said it himself. When the Pharisees came and asked him what the greatest law was, or the religionists, and he said, these are the two laws. The first law is love the Father, love God with all your mind, all your heart, and all your soul. And this infinite field is what Jesus referred to as the Father. And we know the Father is within us too, operating through the subconscious mind. It is the intelligence of the universe inside of us. Remember, we don't have to make our heart beat. We don't have to make our hair grow. This infinite mind is doing that for us. And then the second law which he gave is obviously love your neighbor as yourself. But he says everything is one, right? It's one. So that means if everything is one, even all matter is part of that one and came from that one, which means you as well, viewer, you came from that one. And this is exactly what we're going over, because you are I am in the flesh. Remember, you can say I am. You are conscious. You are aware. You could think. You can make choices. Now, when it comes to the physical part, right? When it comes to the mechanism of attachment, this mechanism is the body. It is the man. It is the brain as well. So this part, I'll do some curvatures because I know I got a lot of lines in here already. A circle, like a cloud. It's going to be like the cloudy part. This is the brain. Okay, we know the pineal gland is even centered within the brain. And the physical manifestation of thought, since it's vibration, your synapses, your neurons, your brain cells are going to correspond with what you are vibrating in thought. Remember, this vibration exists on a higher plane. Consciousness is a higher plane than the brain. Remember, the brain is physical, right? In order for the brain to really hear what it's like, for the brain to hear, you would have to physically speak. But you can hear your thoughts. You're aware of your thoughts. It's because thought exists on a higher plane. Thought exists on a plane that is higher than the physical plane. And we know that is the spiritual plane, the conscious plane, the I am plane. So the spiritual part of the power of thought, you're vibrating like that tuning fork, and that vibration is going out through traveling the infinite mind, attaching to any like vibrations, and by the law, you're being attracted to it. It's just coming to you. The physical manifestation is your neurons, your synapses are responding to the vibration of your personal tuning fork, and it gets built into your system. It gets built into your neurons. We know this today in science. It's called neuroplasticity. So you could legitimately change the structure of your brain simply by changing how you think, right? This is the main key. This is the master key that Mr. Hanel is giving us. And we can legitimately, through understanding this and how this works, and we're going over visualization, the power of visualization. We're going over the power of thought. Through understanding the spiritual portion, we can legitimately create and build our own behavioral paradigm, where 95% of the thoughts we think, 95% of the behaviors we do are subconscious behaviors. That 5% is what we apply conscientiously in consciousness by the will of the moment, like he mentioned in part 2. The one decreed the two powers of mind, right? The one decreed by the will of the moment, and the other proceeding in majestic rhythmic course. The majestic rhythmic course is not, it is influenced by the conscious mind, but it does not rely upon the conscious mind for its function. The conscious mind can influence the subconscious, but even the conscious mind rests upon the functioning of the subconscious mind. Because remember, it's the Father within, it's the power within. And we know this today, even with our gut health, right? An unhealthy gut from foods that aren't healthy has an influence on the function of the conscious mind, which is why health is so important. Health is tremendously important. It's the most important thing. Or what's the point of making millions of dollars if you can't enjoy it when you're not healthy? Where you could enjoy, I've still in the process of making my millions. I'm in the process of making my billions, right? When it happens, it's going to happen. But I have enjoyed life with and without things because I felt good, right? You feel good when you're very healthy and you're very conscious and you're very focused. You feel very good. Now when you're not in it's like Gandhi said, health is the only real wealth. And what's the point of making so much money too if you're going to be spending a ton of it trying to get your health back? In the end, you're going to be spending it anyway just to get your health back. Like, why not just bypass that altogether and start working on your health now? Remember, this is part of the New Thought ideology, the part of New Thought philosophy. Remember, you're growing. We're grounding our consciousness, our thought process. We're grounding it in principle. We're grounding it in natural law. We're grounding it in scientific observations of things that are known to be true. It's not about our opinion of anything, right? No matter what, whether I believe in gravity or not, gravity is going to pull this thing to the ground. Whether you want to believe in the law of attraction or not, the law of attraction is it's scientifically proven to be true. Like this tuning fork example that I just gave you. That's how quantum physics explains the law. We know this to be true. We know that this is just what happens. This is how the infinite mind, a part of how the infinite mind just created this universe. It's just what God said it is. God said, hey, this is what it is. This is my universe. This is how I'm going to make things. And then we're here in the flesh, experiencing life through this flesh. And these are the laws that we abide by. Like, we live by these laws. Remember, it wasn't through trying to overcome gravity that made us fly. Okay, we overcame gravity and understood the law of lift by understanding and accepting that gravity was there. And because we understood and accepted, hey, the law of gravity is there no matter what, we then were able to build something else, such as the airplane, which allowed us to overcome gravity. And we learned it as the law of lift. In order to lift something, you have to design it a specific way. There has to be a certain velocity. There has to be speed. There has to be power behind the travel. And now we're able to travel from one state to the next, one country to the next, one continent to the next, in just several hours through understanding of the law. And what that means, viewer, through understanding these basic psychological laws, right? What happens with the brain, what happens with the body, the mind, when you think, but also these higher spiritual laws. Hey, thought does not stay with us. Our thought is literally traveling the universal mind, right? Which is why it's necessary for you to be very mindful of what it is that you're thinking. Now, another example, I know you've been with somebody and they ended up saying something, or you ended up saying something, and then either one of you said, hey, I was just thinking that. Right? This intangible force of mind, this vibratory force, is not limited to just us. It's legitimately traveling around you, and it's being picked up by others. Right? Remember, most of our communication is nonverbal. And how somebody communicates is mainly through the body. It's mainly through just this intangible understanding, right? You could feel like it's just a knowing, like you just know. For those of you that understand this and see this yourself, you know what I'm talking about. For those of you who haven't recognized yet, just observe, right? Observe, take what I'm saying, think about it. I don't want you just to accept it, but think about it. Think about what I presented here, and be mindful. Next time you have these experiences, remember what was said here, and really be open to the possibilities of this higher world, this higher realm at play in this universe which we live. It's very, very powerful, very interesting, and I got to tell you, man, the things that have been happening with work, what I've been manifesting at work, in even with New Thought, right? I've back to that cat. He messaged me on my old video. Like, this was, I told him my experience with it. That's right. That's a portion of, that's what it's given me, this understanding, this spiritual understanding that is beyond just any type of material means we can have. And the value of it is way beyond any material means you can get. Now, as I said, there are many material things and experiences that I would still love to enjoy and to have. But even so, this is just, these are laws, like these are principles, these are beyond finances, right? It's a truth, it's a knowing, it's a spiritual thing. And or you could take that with you everywhere you go. But anyway, I told him that there's so much to explain. I put the biggest meat and bones we can say of what Master Key has done for us and what it will do for him. Remember, he has to experience it himself. He has to do it himself. Remember, Mr. Hanel, as he said, reading about it is not going to do anything for you other than give you an intellectual understanding. But legitimately applying and practicing the information, that's what makes the biggest difference. And I led him to this channel because we're working under this channel. We're doing things with this channel. My old channel is just more of a, I go on there, I'll watch YouTube shorts, whatever, on my free time, whatever, keeping up with whatever's going on in politics, government, whatever's going on in the world. But anything pertaining to New Thought, we're doing here. So I let him here, and if he shows up, great, right? If he doesn't, great. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean I'm going to stop doing what I'm doing. But anyway, hopefully we see him here sometime soon. Let's get started with part 11. We're already over halfway. Not halfway, but 30 minutes in. And we're excited for this. This is going to be good. Part 11 is going to be good. So with all that being said, co-creator, let's get started with our introduction. So part 11, your life is governed by law, by actual immutable principles that never vary. Law is in operation at all times, in all places. Wow. We were just talking about this too, and he just confirms it, that there are these fixed universal laws that we all abide by, whether we're conscious of it or not. This is what the infinite mind said it is, and because the infinite said it's that way, that's how it is, regardless of whether we believe it or not, whether we agree with it or not. It is what it is. So fixed laws underlie all human actions, For this reason, men who control giant industries are enabled to determine with absolute precision just what percentage of every 100,000 people will respond to any given set of conditions. It is well, however, to remember that while every effect is the result of a cause, the effect in turn becomes a cause, which creates other effects, which in turn creates still other causes. So that when you put the law of attraction into operation, you must remember that you are starting a train of causation for good or otherwise, which may have endless possibilities. So what he is saying here is that everything that I'm doing now, every action that I take, every thought that I think, sets a train of causation in motion. Of course, we can start a cause, we can set a cause in motion by thinking something new, choosing a new direction to go from this point forth. But everything I'm doing now not only is going to cause another cause to happen, but that cause is going to continue setting other causes in motion, right? It's a train of causation. So everything we do or have done in the past is still creating other causes, which is affecting other people's lives. And I know I've said this before, many times before. Whatever's going on in China, whatever's going on in Russia, whatever's going on in any other part of the world, it affects us. Whatever we're doing here in America, whatever we're doing as people, whatever we're doing individually, is affecting these other countries. Regardless if we live in the same country, regardless if we're on the same land, regardless if we ever met any of those people before, everything that I do, that you do, is going to affect somebody that you don't even know, that you never even met, right? Because that train of causation is happening. And we know with whatever our current president is doing in his presidency, when it comes with tariffs, things and whatnot, whatever he is setting in motion, it's affecting these other countries. And these other countries are responding to it by setting their own causes in motion, which in turn are going to affect us in certain ways, right? Remember, it's just that game of continuously responding to each other with other causes, right? And whatever we've done in the past, like I said, it's going to keep trickling other causes in motion, that train of causation. Very interesting, very powerful. Like, you never know the extent of what your action is going to do. You never know. We frequently hear it said, quote, "A very distressing situation came into my life, which could not have been the result of my thought, as I certainly never entertained any thought which could have such a result." End quote. We fail to remember that like attracts like in the mental world, and that the thought which we entertain brings to us certain friendships, companionships of a particular kind, and these in turn bring about conditions and environment, which in turn are responsible for the conditions of which we complain. So he's saying the thoughts that we send out are going to attract certain people and situations in our lives. And they, in turn, will bring and attract with them certain situations and conditions in their life. And since you're around that person, you're going to be around those situations and conditions. Remember, as it said, we become like those we hang around. The birds of a feather flock together. For we become like those we're around most of the time. And those we're around what they are around. Wow. Even I never really thought of those things. Not until now. It was very interesting. So that's the end of the introduction. Let's go and get started with the main part. So inductive reasoning is the process of the objective mind by which we compare a number of separate instances with one another until we see the common factor that gives rise to them all. Induction proceeds by comparison of facts. It is this method of studying nature which has resulted in the discovery of a reign of law, which has marked an epoch in human progress. What he says, through inductive reasoning is a big part of what brought New Thought about to begin with, because there has been a lot that has been said that New Thought and the principles found therein are not just from Christianity, but it's also from Stoicism, Greek philosophy, Hinduism, what else? Anywhere that truth has been found and that can be understood reasonably, and connecting that truth with another truth, as he said, to find that common line, the common factor, which gives rise to them all, right? That is done through the process of induction. He says it is the dividing line between superstition and intelligence. It has eliminated the elements of uncertainty and caprice from men's lives and substituted law, reason, and certitude. It is the watchman at the gate mentioned in the former lesson. So inductive reasoning, we can say, because we know reason is the main power of the conscious mind, the intellectual power. We know reason is a divine thing. It is not a bad thing. If it was bad, it would never have been given to us by the infinite to begin with. God would never have endowed us with reason to begin with if it was a bad thing. As it is said, through reason we understand these laws. It is a divine principle of the conscious mind. And it is in the power of the watchman at the gate. Remember, he said, the conscious mind, being the watchman, is responsible for directing our subconscious forces in the direction of which we wish, which we desire to send them, to direct them, to achieve the things we want to achieve. But it's also responsible for guarding the subconscious mind from mistaken impressions, from falling off the rail, so to speak, from losing its direction, from negative impressions. It's our responsibility to guard the subconscious from any type of negative anything from the external world, and to direct it towards the positive, the things that we want, the directions of which we wish to proceed in. In other words, distractions. The conscious mind, the watchman at the gate, is here to direct the subconscious to create the life and manifest the life which we desire. And two, to remove distractions, to keep distraction at bay, to not let distraction knock us off the trail, the track, so to speak. Right, which is why they talk about focus so much. You hear successful people talk about the importance of staying focused on your goal, which is why they'll have you have a goal card and write your goal down so you can read it, you can remind yourself of it, and you can visualize around it. When, by virtue of this principle, the world to which the senses were accustomed had been revolutionized, when the sun had been arrested in his course, the apparently flat earth had been shaped into a ball and set whirling around him, when the inert matter had been resolved into active elements, and the universe presented itself wherever we directed the telescope and microscope, full of force, motion, and life, we are constrained to ask by what possible means the delicate forms of organization in the midst of it are kept in order and repair. Like poles and like forces repel themselves or remain impenetrable to each other, and this cause seems in general sufficient to assign a proper place and distance to stars, men and forces, as men of different virtues enter enter into partnership, so do opposite poles attract each other. Elements that have no property in common, like acids and gases, cling to each other in preference, and a general exchange is kept up between the surplus and the demand. As the eye seeks. Now, what he said here, he is talking about opposites coming together to create a greater portion, right? Let's say we have your magnet. Your magnetic has its positive and negative poles. Now, the positive is going to be the portion, the part of the pole that electricity, electrical currents, force, so to speak, is going to push out. Well, the negative portion is going to be the receptive, the negative, the one that attracts it, that pulls it in. Or we know the earth, the sun, these planetary, these planets, we use earth, even magnetic bars, but earth has its north and south pole. The north pole, the electrical, how can I explain this? The magnetic field of the earth, the force of that magnetic field comes out of the north side, pushes outward, and it comes back around the earth and reabsorbs within itself through the south, the negative side. And this action and interaction from a positive and negative is what creates that electromagnetic field, which protects us as humans from solar rays, from solar winds, from getting burned up from the sun. If Earth did not have its magnetic field, we would get destroyed. We would become destroyed. Life wouldn't even exist here on this planet. Now, that's an example, as he's saying these opposites attract in many ways. And he's saying even elements, we're made out of these elements. Even some of these elements, many of them have no property in common whatsoever, but they come together, they work together. Like certain acids and certain gases, they come together, they cling to each other, and they create something more together. They work together to keep up with the demand, between the surplus and the demand. Now, it's very interesting too, because there is an old brother of mine. We don't talk much today, but when we were younger, we had just about nothing in common. There was a lot we did not have in common. Came from two totally different worlds, different attitudes, different everything. We were both involved in business, and we both trained, we both worked out. And at that time, I used to smoke a lot of weed. Right? I'm sober today. I'm almost 4 years sober. But being young, irresponsible, right? Like, I've been there. It's just, that was a portion of my life. And, we hung out a lot. But today, and I'm sure he feels and thinks the same way. Like, we wouldn't hang out at all today. Probably not. But anyway, we were two totally, completely different people. But there was something about a certain interest we had that brought us together and made us. We just became brothers, right? For the time that we were brothers. So let's continue. As the eye seeks and receives satisfaction from colors complementary to those which are given, so does need, want, and desire, in the largest sense, induce, guide, and determine action. It is our privilege to become conscious of the principle and act in accordance with it. Cuvier sees a tooth belonging to an extinct race of animals. This tooth wants a body for the performance of its function, and it defines the peculiar body it stands in need. It stands in need of with such precision that Cuvier is able to reconstruct the frame of this animal. So he's saying Cuvier finds this tooth, and this tooth, he is looking to where this tooth goes to. He is looking for the very thing that this tooth needs to be attached to. But through just observation of the design of the tooth, by understanding the tooth and all that the tooth is, he is able to legitimately construct a design, a jaw, a species, in how the structure of the species jaw will be, just by the understanding of the tooth of which it is attached to. Like how we can understand God by understanding ourselves, because we are the very thing that God has attached itself to. And how with our brain, our mechanism of attachment through understanding of the brain and the law, we could legitimately form our mechanism to whatever design structure we want to design it to be, and it'll express physically through the body as our character and conduct. Remember, that's how we get that into the subconscious. But back to this, through Cuvier's understanding of the tooth, he can get an understanding of the design of the animal which it belongs to. Perturbations are disruptions, right? It's disturbances. So disturbances are observed in the motion of Uranus. Leverrier needs another star at a certain place to keep the solar system in order, and Neptune appears in the place and hour appointed. So Leverrier notices that there are disturbances observed in the motion of Uranus. And because this disturbance, there's no reason why our solar system should be together the way it is. But he looks for something else which can be complete the full picture of the functioning of our solar system. And through that observation, he finds Neptune. He says Neptune appears in the place and hour appointed. And because the observation of Neptune, and because Neptune is here, it explains these perturbations. It explains these disturbances that he observed in the motion of Uranus. The instinctive wants of the animal and the intellectual wants of Cuvier, the wants of nature and of the mind of Leverrier were alike, and thus the results. Here the thoughts of an existence, there an existence. A well-defined, lawful want, therefore, furnishes the reason for the more complex operations of nature. So ultimately what he told us right there is that wanting to understand one part of nature is going to lead to another understanding within nature, which is going to help understand this other portion, to understand it as a greater portion. Like he's saying, Cuvier's want to find who and what that tooth belongs to, and Leverrier's want to understand why Uranus is acting the way it's acting, both led them to finding the results of this somewhere else, right? It led them to that. So, and he's saying those are alike. In a well-defined lawful want, a desire for something, therefore, furnishes the reason for the more complex operations of nature. It furnishes the reason to go out and continue to learn more from other places that connect with an understanding of a prior situation or question. So he says, having recorded correctly the answers furnished by nature, and stretched our senses with the growing science over her surface, having joined hands with the levers that move the earth, we become conscious of such a close, varied and deep contact with the world without, that our wants and purposes become no less identified with the harmonious operations of this vast organization than the life, liberty, and happiness of the citizen is identified with the existence of the government, of his government. So he's telling us that through The desire to want to know things is what leads to the finding of them, which is very, if not the exact same thing. That's like how Jesus told us, knock and it shall be given. Right? Knock. Ask. Ask and it shall be given. God will disclose to you the answer to your question. Just like these men had answers or had questions to certain things, and things were just found to answer that question. He's saying this very process is it's the very process that has led us to where we are today in all avenues of our life, even our government. Right? Our wants and purposes become no less identified with the harmonious operations of this vast organization than the life, liberty, and happiness of the citizen is identified with the existence of this government. It's the exact same process when it came to the building of a government. So as the interests of the individual are protected by the arms of the country, added to his own, and his needs may depend upon certain supply in the degree that they are felt more universally and steadily. In the same manner does conscious citizenship in the republic of nature secure us from the annoyances of subordinate agents by alliances with superior powers, and by appeal to the fundamental laws of resistance or inducement offered to mechanical or chemical agents, distribute the labor to be performed between them and man to the best advantage of the inventor. Now that is a very challenging portion to understand. So, in regards to government and a citizen and his connection with his society, his people, he's saying as the interests of those people are protected by the whole, by the government, by that which he is a part of, his society, these interests add to his own, so then he is protected, and his needs may depend upon certain supply in the degree that they are felt more universally and steadily. So what he needs are dependent upon a supply of the whole. And the demand and the demand of that need and how steady it is. Its foundation, right? It's foundational support and its steadiness to fill his need as an individual, which is protected by him, for him, by the government, and by him, especially here in America, because we as citizens are the government. At least that's how America was founded upon. We as American citizens are the government of America. It's not the government itself. The government is just there to protect the rights of its citizens, the rights of us. So he's saying this process, in the same manner of how that happens, does conscious citizenship of the republic of nature. Right now he's talking about nature. Now he's talking about the infinite. That the infinite mind, that nature, secures us from the annoyances of subordinate agents by alliances, by allying itself with superior powers, with higher forces of nature, and by appeal to the fundamental laws. Appeal is living by, right? Living by the fundamental laws of resistance or inducement offered to mechanical or chemical agents, which is fundamental law offered to individual portions which make up the whole as it is, as one, which distribute the labor to be performed between them and man to the best advantage of the inventor. I believe I'm understanding this correctly. like I said, it is a very challenging portion to grasp, to reason with. And obviously the inventor, he's talking about the infinite mind, infinite intelligence, the universal spirit, God. Distribute the labor to be performed between them. So between nature, so the work is distributed between nature, what's around us, and us, ourselves, to the best advantage of the inventor, to the best advantage of the whole in general, the whole as a whole. So let's go ahead and continue. If Plato, because if not, I'll be stuck here for another 20 minutes. If Plato could have witnessed the pictures executed by the sun with the assistance of the photographer, or 100 similar illustrations of what man does by induction, he would perhaps have been reminded of the intellectual midwifery of his master, and in his own mind might have arisen the vision of the land where all manual, mechanical labor and repetition is assigned to the power of nature, where our wants are satisfied by purely mental operations set in motion by the will, and where the supply is created by the demand. His own mind might have arisen the vision of a land. Okay. So it sounds like he is saying, if Plato had what we had today, and if he had the help of the photographer, or other hundreds of many things that men did and do today by induction, he would have been reminded, he would have known, he would have understood more of the intellectual, he says intellectual midwifery of his master. This part's kind of throwing me off a little bit. Intellectual midwifery of his master. In his own mind, perhaps, have been reminded of the intellectual. Okay. Might have arisen the vision of a land. So essentially, if Plato had what we had and did things the way we are doing things now, today, he would have had a greater vision. Because he says right here, in his own mind might have arisen the vision of a land where all manual, mechanical labor and repetition is assigned to the power of nature. So he would have had, if Plato had what we had, he would have had a better and broader understanding of nature. That's what he is saying. Where our wants, this mid portion, it is a little bit confusing with the wordings Mr. Handel puts it in. But this end part of it explains it. As if Plato had what we had, and he did things the way we know to do things today, and where inductive reasoning has got us, Plato would have seen much more when it came to revealing the secrets of nature. Because he ends it with, where our wants are satisfied by purely mental operations set in motion by the will. Just remember how we know the law is that thought will automatically correlate with its object and bring it into manifestation, as we open this entire video with that illustration. The vibration of thought itself. And we, by our I amness, our divine center of awareness, with our ability to choose the things that we want to think by the power of the will, as he says, we set those laws in motion by the power of our will. We set causes in motion by the power of the will. And where the supply is created by the demand. And we know, as he said before, desire is the silent demand. which sets the law in motion, which brings to us the things needed for moving forward within the things in our lives. So he says, however distant that land may appear, induction has taught men to make strides toward it, and has surrounded him with benefits which are, at the same time, rewards for past fidelity. Fidelity is loyalty. Rewards for past loyalty and incentives. Incentives are benefits. Okay, incentives, benefits. Okay, where were we? For more assiduous devotion. It is also an aid in concentrating and strengthening our faculties for the remaining part, giving unerring solution for individual as well as universal problems by the mere operations of mind in its purest form. The purest operation of mind is simply thinking and mental picturing, visualizing. Excuse me, sorry. Here we find a method, the spirit of which is to believe that what is sought has been accomplished. In order to accomplish it, a method bequeathed upon us, a method bequeathed that has been bestowed upon us by the same Plato who, outside of this sphere, could never find how the ideas became realities. So he's saying Plato didn't have what we have. And because he didn't have what we have, he couldn't find the more deeper reality backed behind the reality which he himself was trying to explain. Right? He couldn't find how ideas became realities. He couldn't understand it. He says this conception. Now, I never really studied Plato. This is directly from Handel's point of view and Handel's perspective. So I'll take what Handel says about Plato as a grain of salt, right? Because I don't know Plato. Now, Mr. Handel is a very credible man. But remember, we have to make decisions for ourselves, and we have to think for ourselves. So because for me, I don't know enough about Plato to really make a final conclusive decision about him myself, so I'm not going to. But regardless of that, we know what Handel is saying. Because he didn't have what we have, again, he couldn't find the things we know today to explain reality. And we can explain higher portions of reality today by what we've uncovered and discovered to be true about reality. So this conception is also elaborated by Swedenborg in his doctrine of correspondences. And a still greater teacher has said, quote, "What things soever ye desire, when ye pray, believe that ye receive them, and ye shall have them." End quote. That's Mark 11:24. The difference of the tenses in this passage is remarkable. And this goes back again to the illustration that I showed in opening this video, right? Whatsoever things ye desire, because you're thinking about it, you're visualizing it, you're thinking upon it. That visualization, that vibration goes out into the infinite mind, right? And you believe that you're going to receive it. You believe that you're going to have it. And through the process of the law of attraction, whatever the infinite mind is going to do through correspondence, you will then be met with that opportunity, that image you carried, that thought that you had in material form. It will eventually manifest itself, and eventually you shall have it. We are first to believe that our desire has already been fulfilled. Its accomplishment will then follow. This is a concise direction for making use of the creative power of thought by impressing on the universal subjective mind that particular thing which we desire as an already existing fact. So he's saying when you When you view it, when you're visualizing, when you're creating, when you're thinking about the thing that you want and you desire it, you have to look at it from the viewpoint that it already exists. Now, this is where faith comes into play. Remember how he told with the grain of the mustard seed, and how Corinthian Apostle Paul tells us that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Faith is the very power of having the vision and believing that vision will come to pass in time. In time it will come to pass. And you're living your life you're going throughout your day in 100% belief that you will manifest it, that you will experience it as your reality. Right? He's saying you have to desire and think of it as an already existing fact, as it is something that already exists. As Jesus says, whatsoever things you desire when you pray, believe that you receive it, and ye shall have it. So your belief, your faith, is an absolute necessity, an absolute requirement for its manifestation, for it to come, for it to show up in your life. This is very interesting because I gotta throw this in there. I had been taught many, many years ago about this idea of a radar screen. Okay, because as we recently covered this, right, you have to vibrate on a specific frequency, you being the cause of vibration. Okay, whatever frequencies are out there in the world that's vibrating at a certain frequency, when you choose to vibrate at that frequency, that vibration, you will then attach to whatever other like frequencies there are, vibrations there are. But when it comes to the radar screen, hopefully we still have enough ink in here. So this radar screen, let's say this radar screen is going to be the infinite mind again, this giant portion. And in the middle of that, in that infinite mind, we know exists everything, right? There's infinite possibilities or infinite existence. There's tons of vibration. Now this is you. And in the middle of your radar screen, it's going to be you. Okay, so there's a little dot. There's a little dot right there. That's you. Okay. Now you could only see this far. Okay, in your radar screen, you could only see this far. Now, this is going to explain the importance of having faith. Because as we talked about the law, we talked about the tuning fork, and we talked about vibration, creating that vibration. Your radar screen, like I said, this is only what you can see in front of you. But we know when you vibrate, dang, this thing really is going out. Your vibration extends beyond just your radar screen. Oh, I don't have anything else with me right now. Now this is another example of the tuning fork. But this is what you're vibrating, okay? You're vibrating. Your vibrations, your thought, your mental pictures, what you are putting out is traveling through all of this. But yet you could only see this distance, okay? Remember how we explained with the tuning fork? The tuning fork, right? You are connecting with other vibrations. And by the law, it gets pulled towards you and you get pulled towards it. It's just whatever the universe does to make this manifest in form. And in time, as you hold on to that belief, as you continue to walk through with faith towards your desire, right, this thing keeps getting pulled closer towards you. And eventually, this thing will appear on your radar screen, and then you see it in its manifested form. Okay, I'm trying to darken it, but of all the times for this to run out of ink, huh? It then makes its appearance on your radar screen. So understanding this, you need to understand the power of faith, what happens when you have faith, and what happens when you know and trust in the law, and you trust in God, in God's ability to bring the things you need and want to you for you to manifest it. Remember, when this thing appears, you have to act upon it. You have to act upon it. Action is the very thing which really, truly solidifies its existence in your life. And you letting the universe know, hey, yes, this is what I want. Because let's say, for example, if you bring this in, you manifest this, but you don't recognize it, you don't act upon it, then it's just going to go away, right? That is why it is said to you need to know exactly what you want, because you will recognize it when it shows up. And if you really truly want it that bad, you will act upon it, and you will then begin, this thing will become a part of just what's on your radar, what's on the list of things you've manifested. Okay? So in other words, another way of saying, this is the thing you desire. You're putting it out there in the infinite. Now you're attracted, you're connected to it, even though you don't know you are. You're connected to it spiritually. You can only see this range, this distance in time as you hold on to that image, as you hold on to it with faith. The law will continue to work. Remember, you have to hold on to it, because the minute you change your mind, the minute you change your focus and your direction, and what you're tuning in, what you're vibrating, this thing will get cut off. This thing will disconnect. And then this will go this way, right? And you will go that way, because there's no more correspondence. There's no attraction. There's no more force holding it together. So let's continue. So we have to think of it as an already existing fact, as something that already is. He is saying we are thus thinking on the plane of the absolute, and eliminating all consideration of conditions or limitation, and are planting a seed which, if left undisturbed, will finally germinate into external fruition. And this is a perfect example of what's going on with me and my financial goal, my goal with work, my current goal with work. I'm thinking on that plane. I'm visualizing it. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling as if I'm already that. And things are just happening on its own, which are getting me to that next level. And when it manifests, the opportunities are manifesting in front of me. I'm acting on those opportunities, whether it's a big thing to do or a small thing to do. Both of them are just as important as the other when it comes to the fulfillment of my goal, my desire. And because I'm thinking of it as something that already is, I'm growing into it and manifesting. It's becoming a part of me, and I am becoming a part of it in turn, correspondence. So to review, inductive reasoning is the process of the objective mind, by which we compare a number of separate instances with one another until we see the common factor which gives rise to them all. We see people in every civilized country on the globe securing results by some process which they do not seem to understand themselves, and to which they usually attach more or less a mystery. Our reason is given to us for the purpose of ascertaining the law by which these results are accomplished. So what Mr. Hanel says right there too is that there are many, many people that are setting this law in motion without even knowing about it. that are doing things correctly and cannot explain how they're getting the results that they're getting. They just know that they're just getting the results. Now, Hannah was saying that our purpose is to secure and ascertain the law by which these people are getting the results that they're achieving. Right? Because we need to understand the law. We need to ascertain the law so we could achieve the things we want conscientiously, deliberately. He says the operation of this thought process is seen in those fortunate natures that possess everything that others must acquire by toil, who never have a struggle with conscience, because they always act correctly and can never conduct themselves otherwise than with tact, learn everything easily, complete everything they begin with a happy knack, live in eternal harmony with themselves, without ever reflecting much what they do, or ever experiencing difficulty or toil. Now, unfortunately, for me, I did not exactly grow up as one of these individuals. I've had to work very, very, very hard to be who I am today, to think how I think now, to study what I needed to study. But fortunately, for me, I understand what it's like being on both ends. Like I said, I haven't experienced living my life as a millionaire, a billionaire, whatever yet, but I know one day I will. I know one day I will. But because I've experienced life without having it, and I know we're going to experience life as having it, I'm going to understand the difference between having it and not having it. And I'll be able to understand people better that don't have it. He's saying this likewise with you, viewer. Since you're going through this with me, you may not be in the best situation in your life, whatever. Remember, you're not barred down by where you are. You can change. You could create the life you wanted by starting where you are now, with what you have now, and by just simply focusing in retraining yourself, training your mind, visualizing it, applying the information to move towards the direction of the things that you truly want, and to move towards them with faith and belief that they are going to happen for you. Remember, you have to have the faith. You have to. You have to believe in yourself and in these universal fundamental laws, that they're working, whether you see them working or not, that they are working. But we know what it took to move into this higher state of being, this higher state of consciousness. And because we knew the difficulties of it, we can connect better with those that didn't have it in the beginning like we did, as compared to somebody that just naturally just seemed to have it their entire life. So that is the fortunate part for us. Or there's always a positive in everything, and we cannot let these seeming negatives be a negative, because in reality it's not. We can do more that way. The fruit of this thought is, as it were, a gift of the gods, but a gift which few as yet realize, appreciate, or understand. The recognition of the marvelous power which is possessed by the mind under proper conditions, and the fact that this power can be utilized, directed, and made available for the solution of every human problem, is of transcendental importance. It is absolutely the most important thing we can have, because we could take this law, this function of life everywhere with us. All truth is the same, whether stated in modern scientific terms or in the language of apostolic times. There are timid souls who fail to realize that the very completeness of truth requires various statements, that no one human formula will show every side of it. So he's saying, regardless of the case, truth is truth, regardless of how it's presented. It could be presented in a scientific term. It could be presented in a religious term. It could be presented in a philosophical term. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how it's presented. Truth is truth, regardless of its presentation. And to get the fullest picture of what is being said, you have to have different examples, different understandings of it, different viewpoints of the one same thing. So changing emphasis, new language, novel interpretations, unfamiliar perspectives are not, as some suppose, signs of departure from truth, but, on the contrary, they are evidence that the truth is being apprehended in new relations to human needs and is becoming more generally understood. So what are you saying? If truth does present itself in another way, he's saying it's not necessary to shy away from it. Doesn't mean it's a bad thing. What he is saying is that we can understand that truth is being presented in ways that it has not been presented before. The truth must be told to each generation and to every people in new and different terms, so that when the great teacher said, quote, "Believe that ye receive, and ye shall receive," end quote, or when Paul said, quote, "Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen," end quote, or when modern science says, quote, "The law of attraction is the law by which thought correlates with its object," end quote. Each statement, when subjected to analysis, is found to contain exactly the same truth, the only difference being in the form of presentation. So, viewer, I know when it comes to Orthodox religions, New Age philosophy, all these different creeds, doctrines, beliefs, remember that if anyone tries to tell you the law of attraction is evil, you could tell them that even the words of Christ explained the law of attraction, that even Christ himself was talking about the law and how we could utilize it for our benefit. Remember, the kingdom of heaven is within. Seek ye first this kingdom, and all these other things shall be established unto thee. Believe that ye receive it, and ye shall have it. These are all different words which are being explained today through higher scientific terms, which New Thought is presenting before us today. We are not teaching anything new. We're teaching all the exact same things Christ had taught, just in a modern term. And the law of attraction is the most modern interpretation, representation of the truth that even Christ had given us a couple thousand years ago. We are standing on the threshold of a new era. The time has arrived when man has learned the secrets of mastery and the ways being prepared for a new social order, more wonderful than anything ever heretofore dreamed of. The conflict of modern science with theology, the study of comparative religions, the tremendous power of new social movements, all of these are but clearing the way for the new order. They may have destroyed traditional forms which have become antiquated and impotent, but nothing of value has been lost. Now, I want to make this clear too. When he's talking about new order, he's not talking about the whole new world order, conspiracies that are involved with Illuminati things and whatnot. This has nothing to do with that, because we're here to liberate things. We're not here to destroy anything else. We're here to connect everything together. Remember how Abel Allen has explained to us in the message of New Thought that New Thought is a positive. It is a plus. Its symbol is addition. We are here to add to the things which have already been established. We are not here to take away anything else. Because subtraction, taken away, is destructive. And we're here as a constructive, positive force. A new faith has been born, a faith which demands a new form of expression, and this faith has taken form in a deep consciousness of power, which is being manifested in the present spiritual activity found on every hand. In this new faith he is talking about, it's not doing away with the old. Right? We are teaching the exact same things Christ had taught. So we're not doing away with the old. We are fulfilling it. We are fulfilling the teachings of Christ with our modern understanding today. The spirit which sleeps in the mineral, breathes in the vegetable, moves in the animal, and reaches its highest development in man is the universal mind. And it behooves us to span the gulf between being and doing. Excuse me. I don't know why I get the hiccups after I drink my drink of the gods when I'm talking, making a video. I don't get hiccups at all when I'm just sitting down doing my thing drinking. It must be just the fact that I'm talking right at the same time. Not at the same time, but you know what I mean. The gulf between being and doing, theory and practice, by demonstrating our understanding of the dominion which we have been given. By far the greatest discovery of all the centuries is the power of thought. The importance of this discovery has been a little slow in reaching the general consciousness, but it has arrived, and already in every field of research the importance of this greatest of all great discoveries is being demonstrated. And that's a part of our goal with New Thought Society, to bring this information forward, to help the masses understand this power that they are not only connected to, but that they actually are, that they are the power in the flesh. But they have to become conscious of its existence. They have to understand and recognize it, and also how to apply it, how to use it. That visualization, that imagination, that thinking goes far beyond just it's intangible, it's spiritual, that it is a real legitimate thing. It's not something that's just happening inside of us, but it's being sent out in waves, in vibrations, as forms of energy into the infinite mind. That your thought and mental pictures are not barred down to just what's happening inside your head. That they are legitimately traveling the infinite in the form of energy, vibration, frequency. And then, of course, the physical manifestation of it, that vibrational thought, is legitimately creating neural pathways in the brain, becoming their behavior, becoming who they are. You ask, in what does the creative power of thought consist? It consists in creating ideas, and these in turn objectify themselves by appropriating, inventing, observing, discerning, discovering, analyzing, ruling, governing, combining, and applying matter and force. It can do this because it is an intelligent, creative power. Thought reaches its loftiest activity when plunged into its own mysterious depth, when it breaks through the narrow compass of self and passes from truth, to the region of eternal light, where all which is, was, or ever will be melt into one grand harmony. So he's saying thought will reach its main central point of activity when it goes from past the self into oneness and unity with the infinite source, the infinite mind. And understanding the truth amongst many different religions. Inductive reasoning. Understanding the fine line between all things that have been presented. Now, even for me, I've found that it really truly is expressed in its highest form in Christ. Because the further you get into understanding New Thought, it still leads you into studying more of Christ. Because regardless of all the things we've realized through inductive reasoning, and regardless of all these other things New Thought may have pulled from philosophies, other religions, in the scientific observations that have been found, regardless of the case, what they attach it to most is the Word of God, is the Bible, to Christ. And as Abel Allen has explained to us in the Message of New Thought, the whole purpose and point of New Thought is for you, viewer, as an individual, not only understanding yourself, but for you to also say, I and the Father are one. To you to formulate that unity with the Father, infinite mind, and how you are connected to it, and it is within you. And as we're learning here through the Master Key, not only forming that circuit, that unity with the infinite mind, but to conscientiously apply its powers, to apply the power which Christ gave us to manifest the things we want, to apply and manifest the kingdom of heaven that we know is within, and to live from the viewpoint of Christ in the flesh, which is our divine birthright. From this process of self-contemplation comes inspiration, which is creative intelligence, and which is undeniably superior to every element, force, or law of nature, because it can understand, modify, govern, and apply them to its own ends and purposes, and therefore possess them. Wisdom begins with the dawn of reason, and reason is but an understanding of the knowledge and principles thereby we may know the true meaning of things. Wisdom, then, is illuminated reason, and this wisdom leads to humility, for humility is a large part of wisdom. And I know I've talked about this too, even with the Message of New Thought, because we were talking about wisdom. Solomon tells us in Proverbs that wisdom was present since the beginning of time, since the beginning of God. Wisdom has been there since God has been there. It's been there from the very existence of all created things. And through wisdom, God has created all things. Through wisdom, God has created the heaven and the earth. And through our divine reason, we can understand God's wisdom. And we know, we learn about with Christ, and how Christ is the fullness of the Godhead bodily. Christ is the image of God in man. Christ is the wisdom of God in the flesh. We all know many who have achieved the seemingly impossible, who have realized lifelong dreams, who have changed everything including themselves. We have sometimes marveled at the demonstration of an apparently irresistible power which seemed to be ever available just when it was most needed. But it is all clear now. All that is required is an understanding of certain definite excuse me, my apologies. That came out of nowhere. All that is required is an understanding of certain definite fundamental principles and their proper application. For your exercise this week, concentrate on the quotation taken from the Bible. Quote, "Whatsoever things ye desire, when ye pray, believe that ye receive them, and ye shall have them." End quote. Notice that there is no limitation. Quote, "Whatsoever things," end quote, is very definite and implies that the only limitation which is placed upon us in our ability to think, to be equal to the occasion, to rise to the emergency, to remember that faith is not a shadow, but a substance. Quote, "The substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." End quote. What a very beautiful way to end a part. Very smooth, very well put together. Quote, "Death is but the natural process whereby all material forms are thrown into the crucible for reproduction and fresh diversity." End quote. Now that is the end of part 11. We have our practice for this week. We're going to focus on the law. A thought will correlate with its object, that every thought I am thinking is vibrating into the ether and is going out and connecting with other life thoughts. And the longer I concentrate on that line of thought with the power of my will, the longer the duration of that frequency will be. And as it gets built into my system simultaneously, it'll eventually become a subconscious thought pattern, in turn becoming a habitual vibratory frequency. That whatsoever things, when we believe we can have it, and we have faith, it will arrive. It will arrive. Now, as he ended the last portion too, when any object, this is the end of part 10, when any object or purpose is clearly concentrated upon, when it is clearly held in thought, its precipitation in tangible and visible form is merely a question of time. Very cool, very powerful, very interesting. Now, as the end of part 11, we're going to go ahead and end it right here. Mr. Wayne needs to shower, he needs to eat, and he needs to start getting ready pretty soon for bed. It is 10:20, and we have mid-shift tomorrow. After that, we will be opening, so we won't have much time between tomorrow's shift and the day after tomorrow. When we get home tomorrow, immediately it'll be meditation, eating, boom, melatonin, straight to bed. But anyway, if you made it to this video, thank you for watching this video. If you have been watching these parts and going through it with me, I'm very grateful that you are going through this process with me, because this is a very enduring process. This is not as easy as it seems to go through. There is a lot of sacrifice and time that goes into this, and not only sacrifice of attention, but also self-sacrifice of the willingness to become somebody different, the willingness to become a new version of you, because this process will change you. It'll make you a different person. And even for me, I know I shared it before, that there have been times where I would be observing myself and I felt different. I just felt like a different person. And learning who I'm becoming, right? Like, I've had moments like that, and you're gonna have moments like that. And be comfortable in that, and understand that it's for the best and it's for your benefit, because you're growing, and realize that it's a very quick amount of growth that is happening within you. Or that's where it's happening. It's happening inside of you. And people will see it through a change in your character, but they're not going to see the amount of work that you've put in to make that change happen. So that being said, have a great night. I love you. I will see you next week for part 12.